Good evening and welcome to KMTV. I'm Joshua Coop. Your top stories tonight. 2 killed on Kent's roads. Traffic warden struck down. And 5 and spotting. Could this be the country's youngest train spotter? But first tonight, a bomb disposal unit's been called to a house in Maidstone. Army officers are in Pope Street along with several police cars. It's the second time in 3 years that the bomb squad's been called to this address. The operation is thought to be led by the Ministry of Defence, but it's not yet known what's been found at the scene. In other news, a young man's died after his car left the road and ended up in a field in Aylesford. It happened yesterday evening. I went to the scene earlier. Well, the 20-year-old man was travelling in his blue Vauxhall Corsa between Eccles and Bluebell Hill around 5:40 last night. When his car left the carriageway, went up a steep verge and ended up on its roof in a nearby field. Now, police closed the road for around 6 hours to investigate and try and work out what happened. Sadly, the victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Police now want to hear from anyone who has information or saw the car in Eccles a short time before it happened. This is Joshua Coop in Aylesford for KMTV. Well, meanwhile, a cyclist has died after she swerved off a cycle path and collided with a car in Broadstairs. The crash happened in Dane Court Road just after 7 last night. The 63-year-old woman was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigations are continuing after a 70-year-old man was found dead at a farm in Gillingham. Emergency services have spent the past 3 days in Capstan Road after he suffered serious head injuries on Tuesday morning. He's being treated as murder and a post-mortem has been carried out. No one's yet been arrested, though. A man who arranged to meet an 11-year-old girl for sex has been jailed for more than 3 years. Alan Gibson was arrested when he turned up at Queenborough Station on the Isle of Sheppey after being duped by the police last month. The 55-year-old from Rowan Leah Road in Chatham pleaded guilty. He was also placed on the sex offenders register for life. Now, shocking footage has emerged of a traffic warden being knocked over by a car on Sheppey. The warden asked for a driver to move from the zigzag lines in Eastchurch High Street. But as you can see, the driver then accelerated towards him and knocked him over before driving off. The victim wasn't seriously injured when it happened on the 8th of July. The world-famous journalist and researcher Nick Gowing has presented his latest research at the University of Kent. In his lecture last night, he explained how he wants to question people's ability to consider events that seem impossible, like Trump's election and Brexit, before they happen.
People around the world are now saying, what's going on? Why can't we handle this? And of course, we had produced our main report, our interim report, earlier this year, in 2016, and that was before Brexit and before Trump. So everything we had come to the conclusion about was already on the record before the shock for many of Brexit and the shock for many others of Trump. And so the question which I'm putting here in the University of Kent is, why are leaders finding it so difficult to handle this overwhelming nature of power and overwhelming nature of new events? There's also another reason I'm here. I used to live in Canterbury. I went to the Simon Langton School, and my mother used to teach contemporary politics here.
The journalist and researcher Nick Gowing there. The Port of Dover has reported its busiest day for freight traffic ever. More than 10,500 lorries and vans went through the port yesterday. That's 500 more than the previous record and is the equivalent of 4 extra ferry loads. It comes as welcome news for the port, as there were concerns that our decision to leave the EU would have a negative effect on passenger numbers. A cafe in Maidstone could be forced to close because its funding's being taken away. Switch was set up to give young people a place to hang out after school, but relies completely on charitable donations and grants, which could be axed. Natalie Tipping has the story.
Switch Youth Cafe on Maidstone High Street has been running since 2010. It costs around £84,000 a year to run, and unfortunately funding has now dried up. This means that the cafe is faced with closure on Christmas Eve if it cannot find much needed donations. Although the manager, Mark Chase, has explored other revenue streams, including children in need, they have been unsuccessful. The cafe had more than 18,000 visits from around 1,000 young people last year. We spoke to some of them to see what the service means to them.
All the people who work here are so supportive.
The Swole Switch is basically like a family to me.
Like having a place to go after school and chill out and relax after like a hard day at home or at school or something.
Keeping me in a safe place with all of my friends where I can just relax and have fun. I was just about to say a safe place for us youths to go instead of on the streets.
Just like a second home. You know, everyone's nice, friendly, safe.
To donate to Safer Cafe, go to switchcafe.co.uk and click Donate Now. I'm Natalie Sipping in Maidstone for KMTV.
Children at a school in Hawkhurst have released their own charity single to help raise money for a little girl who's battling a rare disease. Two-year-old Elena Farrager, whose sister goes to St Ronan's, was born with a form of cerebral palsy that can only be treated in America. Her parents need to raise £85,000 for the trip and are hoping the students' take on Keane's Somewhere Only We Know will help towards that. Well, you can see the full video and find out how to donate at kentonline.co.uk. And finally, is Kent home to the country's youngest train spotter? South Eastern was so impressed with Max Prime's knowledge of the railways that they had invited him along to spend a day with them. The 5-year-old from Dartford worked in the ticket office. He had a go at dispatching trains and even went for a ride at the front of a high-speed service. My 5-year-old self is very jealous indeed. Looks like he had a great day. Well, that's all from us for this evening. We'll be back again tomorrow with all the latest stories from across your county. In the meantime, don't forget you can always keep up to date by listening to KMFM or logging on to kentonline.co.uk. Good night.